So we've gotten our hands on a set of leaked files that make a pretty staggering claim about the most remote place on Earth. This is the story of Antarctica and what these documents are calling the Great Awakening. Okay, let's just get right to it. The core idea in this document leak, which is codenamed KONA BLUE, is both simple and, frankly, terrifying. It claims that just 2 years from now, something really fundamental about our world, the actual laws of physics, is going to change, measurably. And this is where things take a very sharp turn away from what you'd expect. The leak just dismisses any kind of natural cause. There's a quote here, pulled right from a file labeled 7B, and it frames this whole thing not as some geological event, but as an activation, a startup sequence. Which of course leads to the big question, the startup of what? All right, Section 1, the KONA BLUE leak. Let's dig into the data from these files and try to wrap our heads around the impossible event they seem to be describing. So what is this impossible event? The documents call it a global gravitational constant shift. Look, just think of gravity as a universal setting, one that's been locked in place since, well, forever. These files are alleging that in March 2026, that setting just flickers. And they trace the epicenter of that flicker to one single, desolate spot in Antarctica. The scientists in this leaked future, they quickly came up with a name for it, the Antarctic gravity hole. It was this area where gravity was just weaker, for no reason. It was a true anomaly that, as the files really stress, no existing model of physics could possibly explain. And here's where the scale of this whole mystery just explodes. The source of this disturbance, it wasn't on the surface. It wasn't even a few feet down. The signal was coming from a staggering 4 kilometers down. That's almost 2.5 miles, straight through solid ice. This reveals a pretty stunning difference between the public story and what these files say. For 70 years, the official narrative has been that Antarctica is this pristine wasteland for science. But KONA BLUE alleges a secret history, a decades-long military mobilization, not for geological surveys, but to map something they call an active grid and find a location described only as the hangar. So now we get to Section 3, a machine beneath the ice. Because all the data they collected from 4 kilometers down, it led the analysts to one single unbelievable conclusion. This was not natural. It was a machine. This brings us right back to the central question that the KONA BLUE analysts were wrestling with. Why this spot? Why is the most fundamental force in the universe apparently just broken at these exact coordinates? Well, the answer wasn't in the rocks and ice, it was in the data signatures. They found a perfect hexagonal heat signature. They picked up a patterned frequency that has no known natural source. The power output, they classified it as Dyson level. I mean, that's technology that can harness the energy of an entire star. And maybe most important of all, they identified what looked like a propulsion exhaust system. And this is the moment everything flips. The gravity hole, it's not a hole. The leak says it's actually a displacement field. It's an after effect, like the heat you see shimmering off a jet engine. So we're not seeing a lack of gravity. We're seeing the exhaust from a massive propulsion system that's starting up deep, deep under the ice. This brings us to the final, and honestly, the most profound section of the KONA BLUE leak. Because if there's a machine, an engine, 4 kilometers under the ice, it completely changes the most basic questions about our planet. What have we actually been living on top of this whole time? And that leads to the final, chilling summary from the leak's analysts. It's a conclusion that reframes, well, everything. That Antarctica isn't a continent, it's a structure, a hangar. And it's been dormant for at least 10,000 years. The ultimate implication here, if you believe the KONA BLUE files, is a complete rewriting of humanity's place in the universe. The files basically conclude with this thought: we are not, and we have never been, the primary residents of this planet. We're just the ones who've been living on the roof. So we're left with the final unavoidable question, right? If this really is a startup sequence, and if Antarctica is a hangar, then what exactly is waking up?